Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I talk with fascinating and inspiring guests who are living their lives with vibrance and purpose. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, psychotherapist, author, and fellow Zestful Ager. And if you like the podcast, you'll love my companion online course, Zestful Aging, Simple and Sustainable Habits for Health and Longevity. And it comes with a 30-page companion manual. It's a blueprint for aging well. Because what good is living longer if we're not also healthy and happy? Find out more at NicoleChristina.com. Well, I've got my little Jack Russell Terrier, Sparky, right beside me, and I've got a cup of coffee in my hand, so let's begin. We have a wonderful show for you today. I'm going to be speaking with Sandra Fish, who's an actress. She is on the acclaimed show, the Netflix series Sense8. She's a writer and an end-of-life advocate and the co-founder of the Humane Prison Hospice Project, which helps prisoners in San Quentin die with dignity. Sandra has a history of working in social justice work. She's worked with inmates to find secure work. She's worked in sub-Saharan Africa with refugees and taught inside Rikers Island prison. And she was teaching in Midtown Manhattan when the towers came down. Today we're going to talk with Sandra about her dedication to helping marginalized people die with dignity. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thank you.
You know, the first thing that comes to mind, and I'm sure this is an observation that other people have made, is that you live in very disparate worlds. One is an actress, and I know that Sense8 is getting so much attention, and there's so much excitement around that series. So you live in the world of acting, and then you live in the world of the most marginalized, heartbreaking stories. Can you talk a little bit about what that's like?
Sure. For me as an actor, it's an art form, and I believe that art forms are to connect us, to understand our humanity, the struggle of being a human, which everyone has, and I'm very impressed by the human being to get up in the morning, no matter where you're coming from. So going into these extreme worlds of suffering really feeds what I do as an actress, and my acting somehow feeds the other, just in terms of my hunger to connect. And so they don't feel disparate to me. I've had lots of interconnections with. I think I might have mentioned before that I began my work in prison because of a play I did over 30 years ago called Getting Out. And I played someone who was getting out of prison, and we had an amazing director and cast, and did research visiting women's prisons, and my eyes were opened up and would never shut again. And organically over the decades, I became more and more involved. It was quite organic, serendipitous. And then, so for me, the worlds for me, living a full, deep life is the only way to do my acting and my writing.
So what that says to me is that for you, there's a common denominator here. It's not that acting is a different world. Being a woman acting and being, sort of rubbing elbows with people who I don't know if it's true, but the perception is that, they're different from the average person, that they have different lives and they're more sparkly and,
Well, that's true. You are correct in many ways, because sometimes, and there's all different kinds of actors and artists, and some are actors and stars in Hollywood, and some are, and then you have the artists. So when you're on a set, you rub with all of them: the divas, the princesses, the players, the all of that. But I am drawn to more of the artists, and there are many, and it can seem very shallow, some of that world, but if you're with the real deal, it's very, very deep, and you can run into the same thing in prisons. There are the sparkly ones, but there's not, I can't say there's any real shallowness there.
Right, right.
No one's running to, oh, my dress doesn't look good on me, whatever. So yes, that there is that, but there's that in the world. Our world right now, I think our culture right now is extremely at odds all over the place, and there's just so much frivolous concerns about, am I sexy? Do I look good? Am I hip enough? Am I doing what everyone's doing? I mean, it's just
I might call those
tough.
Kardashian values.
Yes, and sadly they seem to be permeating this pop culture machine. But again, if you make the choice to not go into that, there is a vast, rich, beautiful world of amazing people I am involved with on a day-to-day, hourly basis. Really, I am so fortunate to be involved with the people I'm involved with. So when I see that other, I'm like, whoa, what's that about?
It's foreign. That's so interesting, because we've spoken before and I hadn't thought about it quite this way, but I think this is a really important point. I think what you're saying is it's not different. We are all human, and we
Yes.
all have these parts. And whereas being on the outside looking in, saying, oh, she's been involved with this project and that project, she's on this massively popular Netflix series, and yet you're saying, yeah, it's all part of the same life for you. It's
Yes.
all there's nothing, it's not polar opposite. It's that
No.
we all have these pieces that make us human.
And yes, and I love, I integrate, my life is very integrated. I don't put things in boxes. So everything affects everything. And I have these constant serendipitous things with my acting work and my prison work, where they're always colliding, and it's comforting to me. It makes me feel like I'm in the right place.
Do you ever get reactions from your fellow actors that they're a bit perplexed about why you would be so deeply involved in prison justice?
You know, now and then, but for the most part, because I'm not generally sitting with the movie star, even though I have. And the ones that I know, I can give an example. A friend of mine is an actor, William Hurt, and he's very, very deep about these things. And then so now and then you get people like going, huh? Not very often, because most actors are liberal uh, um, people who really do care about the human condition. I'd say most actors, not even, just most actors. So they're usually interested. Many times they're involved in their own either social justice or human caring in their own lives. So it's not, yeah, they may be surprised or tell me more, but not perplexed.
Mm-hmm. Mm. That's very interesting. Can you take us through a day in the life of Sandra Fish going to San Quentin, and I mean that's
Yeah,
if people haven't been there, it's on the most gorgeous piece of real estate in
yes,
the world, and so but it's an old building, and you
yes,
go up. Can you take our listeners through what this looks like, what this feels like?
sure. Now I'm quite used to it. So it some people when I bring them for the first time, they're nervous or they expect something else. But for me, you park in the parking lot in the back, and I've got a post office box at the little tiny little brick building post office, San Quentin Village. San Quentin prison is in the town of San Quentin, which is very, 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 very tiny, but some beautiful real estate. You're right; it's right on the bay, outside of San Francisco, and then you have to wear conservative clothing is important. I don't understand why some women wear tight clothing and things. I find it appalling to go into a prison dressed like that. And you're really not supposed to. So I wear my baggy suits, and it has to be all black, or that's the easiest way to get in, because if you're wearing blue they don't allow it. They're wearing orange, so there's lots of rules around what you wear. You leave your cell phone out. They're allowing us to bring in pens and notebooks, which is good. And you go through, you come up and there's a guard at the gate, and show him that I'm what is known as a brown card holder, but I have my driver's license I'm showing. And then you walk down a huge long sidewalk which overlooks the water. And you're right, the prison is very old. It's like going into an old castle or something, with big iron gates and iron bars. And you go to what's called the Sallyport entrance of the prison, where I get sign in on a kind of kind of an archaic notebook, and everything feels very archaic. I mean, I
Mm.
think it was built in the 1800s. The prisoners built their own prison. They were imprisoned on a ship out in the bay, and they would sail them in every day to build the prison. So you sign in there. There's a guard there. They give me my brown card. There's another iron gate. You go in and sit there until the next gate opens, and then you're kind of locked between two gates while you show your card again. And then you walk out through that gate, and there's this wonderful courtyard at San Quentin that the prisoners have made gardens out of, and beautiful gardens. And so there's this there we used to walk through what they call the yard, where all the men are working out, and some transgender women, and it's filled with prisoners. It could be intimidating, your first time walking through this, mob of men working out, playing basketball, doing weights, just walking around, and everyone's very respectful. Uh,
Mm.
everyone's very respectful. They know they see how you're dressed. They see you don't, you're a volunteer. They so appreciate us coming in. So very respectful, keep their distance. Now and then we'll get a hello and how's it going, and that kind of thing. If someone does anything that seems the least bit aggressive, it could be raising their arms in the air and saying, "Hey!" There's
Mm.
this booming. It doesn't happen very often. I can count on one hand, but there's a booming siren and a voice, and all the men have to drop to their knees and stay there. And
Mm.
and then you just keep walking. That's what you're supposed to do. You just keep walking through, and
I was just wondering about, and this may be a funny question, but what's the energy like when you're walking and you're going from, you're in the town, you're
mm,
walking into this huge old building filled with
sorrow,
sorrow,
regret.
distress, everything,
Mm.
and you walk in. what does it feel like in your body?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I went to Sing Sing, I had this whole body thing happening because I hadn't been to a huge prison. Now that I'm been going in, I have a way, and I think we all have a way of shielding ourselves, but not shutting down, where you simply have a shield up where it's loving and kind, but you're not open. You don't
Mm,
leave yourself open,
mm-hmm,
and it's important to be that way.
mm-hmm,
Otherwise, I would be bombarded by this. And when I leave, it's not uncommon for me to get in my car and cry. Um, it, it's so intense, the intensity of what's going on and how hard people, the ones I work with, are trying to get out, to
mm,
to 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 serve each other, the remorse is so deep that every hour of their life is about making up for what they did.
mm-hmm. It's hell. I mean, that is a living hell.
Yeah, it's not good. And I have to mention my boyfriend because he's so lovely and he's an actor, and I met him on Sense8. He plays Bug, and he, well before I even met him, has always been interested in this, just more proof of actors. He's very, very passionate about this. And I brought him in for the first time, although it wasn't really in the prison, it was in the visiting room where the Native Americans, this was just a few weeks ago, were holding a powwow, which was quite extraordinary too. That the people who are in there are not what people on the outside wish they were. You know, that we could actually divide the good from the bad. There is no such thing, really, I don't think. And when I leave San Quentin, I mean, it is the most peaceful time of my week being in there with these men, and they care so deeply, and they're so honest, and they're so real, and they appreciate me so much, and they're so respectful towards me. And I just think, why can't, you know, I wish more people on the outside could be like these people I spend time with. Um, Gosh, I think I got off track there, but yeah, the energy in the prison is difficult. And I did Christmas caroling last December in there, where they let us go into the tiers, the cell area, and that was, I just fell apart the next day.
Mm.
So intense. It was on a razor's edge of, is this disgusting that I'm in here going fa la 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 la,
Mm.
or is it good? And one of the prisoners came up to me, and I asked him, I said, I have such mixed emotions about what I'm doing right now. And he said, my first year here, the carolers came, and he said, I just had tears running down my face because it was so good, and so appreciated. And he understood what I was saying, but he also said, no, it's good.
Mhm. Mm. You talk about the intensity, and it sounds like the richness, it sort of cuts both ways, where,
Hmm.
there's this realness and genuine human connection that really seems to light you up. But then there's the other side where there's, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like that there's the sense of unfairness and injustice and 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 this marginalization, which you really struggle with.
Yeah, but for me, life, if we deal with life honestly and we want to live fully, that's you must bear that pain. You must go through that pain. I think people, I see I see, frankly, most people distracting themselves from their own lives, so that they don't feel the pain. I don't blame them, but they're missing out.
Mm,
If we don't deal with our stuff, we all have it. You're not really fully alive. But if you deal with your stuff, it's painful. But it's, for me, it's the way I have to live. And it's been very rewarding. And yes, there's injustice constantly. And talking about it is boring in a way. I mean, it's good that it's out there and people are talking, but it's like, live that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not just maybe read about it and say, I'm
Right.
going to vote and I'm going to,
Well,
but
voting is good, and of course, and that's good, and it's good that people are educated, but sometimes people feel good just because they listen to the right program, and they feel like they've done something, and maybe in a way they have, I don't know, but it can be, I rather talk about what we're doing and not theory or what we last heard or read. I
you want
rather,
to be in the trenches.
yeah, I want to be in the trenches, and I want to talk with people who are in the trenches. And when I say the trenches, I don't expect everyone to go into prison or sit with dying people. That's not for everyone, but I expect them to live their lives. That's being in the trenches enough for me. If someone is facing their own stuff, that's the trenches. So that's exciting to me. The people I'm with generally have gone through hell and back. So, and I think all humans suffer that way, but if you ignore it, it's boring to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Humane Prison Project and really what you're up to? What are the
Sure.
goals and what's the agenda?
Yes, it started about 12 years ago when I went, because I also worked in end of life, held a best friend's hand when she took her last breath, and became very drawn to uh, being with people who are dying. And so it's too long a story, but I ended up going, well, how are they dying in San Quentin? And I heard they were dying badly. So I started on this mission, which has been very slow but relentless in a way, of working on getting hospice care in prisons. So about, I want to say 2 years ago, uh, people started, I started feeling like I was getting the right people involved who are legitimate and well trained and high integrity and mission oriented to help with working on this mission to help people who are dying in prisons. And so we created this organization so that people could, go, oh yeah, they exist. And so we, in San Quentin, they don't have hospice. I'm not giving up on it, and I know they will at some point. So what we did was go in and work with this exceptional group of prisoners, the Brothers Keepers, who are trained as crises counselors, peer crises counselors, and they've been wanting to learn about how to care for each other at the end of their lives, because people do die in San Quentin, even though the medical director denies that. People don't
Mm-hmm.
die here. Well, they do die there, and they don't die well. And
Well,
oftentimes,
what
yeah, go
does
ahead.
that mean, Sandy? What when you say they don't die well? What does that mean?
Okay. Uh, well, let me take the more common example, which is, they're in these cells that are so small they're illegal. The Humane Society says they're illegal to keep a dog in, and you have two men in there. So
Mm.
you've got two men in the cell, and they become closer than brothers, and they care for each other. One of them is dying of cancer, say, which I've heard these stories, so and they don't want to go to the medical facility there because it's isolating and it's scary, and they're away from people who've become family members to them, and they're locked in a room with no windows and a nurse peeking in a glass. And I'm not belittling the nurses or the medical facility. It's a very difficult job, especially in a system that is punitive and trying to look at these people as animals. So if you have this dying person in the cell, they don't want to go to medical, they're in pain, so the cellmate is taking care of them. The cellmate is cleaning them and caring for them and trying to get pain medications or medications to them, which is pretty much impossible, but they're caring for them. Then this is the horror is the cellmate then dies. And what San Quentin does, which my understanding is breaking international law, is San Quentin takes the cellmate who's grieving now for their cellie who's died and they've been caring for them. They take them and put them in the hole. They put them in solitary confinement because they have to, quote, do an investigation to make sure there was no foul play. And they have kept people in that hole for months and months.
Oh my goodness.
And there you can imagine grieving in solitary confinement.
Oh my goodness.
So it's cruel and
it's insult to injury.
Yeah, it's beyond. And I believe these actions we're all complicit. It's not like, oh well, they are doing that. We have somehow created a culture that allows this, and so that's dying badly. Dying badly on the 4th floor of the medical facility, even being taken out to they have a good facility in Vacaville. It's called, I think it's California Men's Facility, CMF. Anyway, it's a medical facility for prisoners, and they have a lovely hospice program in there that's been going for at least 20 years. But I contend that taking someone out of San Quentin, where they've been for 30 years, and this is where they live, and moving them to another facility is also cruel. And oftentimes, there's only 17 beds up there, so, it's not like everyone can go. Mm-hmm. And they do have a law called compassionate release. Sadly, it rarely gets affected put into practice because the paperwork takes so long. They usually die before they get out. Not always, though, so it's a good law.
And are there visitors allowed when people are terminally ill? It's a maximum security prison, right?
Well, it was. They've taken it down one level, I believe, and they still have a death row, which is a big deal. But no, they are not allowed visitors in San Quentin when they're dying, and that's another. So these are things we are advocating. I don't know if I told you. We went to the United Nations. We were accepted to go this past July for a conference they were having on the elderly in the world. And Marvin Much, who'd been in prison for 41 years and was innocent, and got out, and he works with us, and he's amazing. He came with me, and he spoke, and we were the only ones at the conference bringing the piece on the aging in prison. Mm-hmm. And the response from around the world was very, they were appalled at what we do in our prisons, but they were very, very much wanting to be involved and help any way they can to start changing these policies.
I see. With international law, is that the root?
Yeah.
And that's different than Angola. If you believe what you see on Serving Life, that documentary with Forrest Whitaker, where it seems like the administration there is much more about having a humane death.
Yes.
And actually more of a rehabilitation than a punishment.
Yes. Yes, and that's beautiful. And I will plug Prison Terminal. Edgar Behrens is on our board and works with us, and he did a short documentary called Prison Terminal that was up for an Academy Award in 2014. It is also that's a hospice in a prison. I believe it's in Iowa, and so these do exist in the country. They're just way too few.
Mm-hmm. Do you see that slowly changing?
I do, but that's because I'm an optimist. No, I feel sure it will change for sure. It's just one of those things. It takes time, but more and more and more people are talking about it. This idea of how our because there's such an aging population in our prisons, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, how are they dying? How are we taking care of them? What's going on?
Mm-hmm. What would you like to see, Sandra? What do you see as dying with dignity? Can you describe, your view and your belief of what needs to happen for these prisoners?
Yes, I think it needs to be what happens on the outside too. The dying person needs to have the choices of of certainly whether they want to be resuscitated or not, or how much medical attention they want, but certainly to have a space where they can put up photos, they can make it, have colorful quilts, have it be a bedroom, have their fellow inmates visiting them that they want to visit, having family members visit, having their own choices to these last days, these last weeks, to to feel the love and the care, and as I think you mentioned, the rehabilitation for the prisoners taking care of the dying prisoner is extraordinarily transformative, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, just a very humane, uh, uh, listening to what their needs are,
Mm-hmm.
and having the people around them that they love, and being treated simply as a human being. I believe our last breaths are our most important moment, and it's important for those of us not dying to respect and love and pay attention to someone going through that.
Can you say a little bit more? Our last breaths are our most important moments.
Yes, I feel like I even feel like at your last breath, a whole life could be redeemed. Um,
Mm.
it's your last moments in this life. And I think about it daily. I'm big on talking and thinking about death, and sometimes I think about it and go, "Oh my God, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to die." I mean, when you really think about it, and I feel I have my own beliefs, and it's all a mystery, so you can't really say what's going to happen. But my experience with being people who die, and the peace that comes at the end, and the things that happen, I believe there's a lot more going on than we understand. And it's your transition into whatever your next life is. And
Mm-hmm.
and the more conscious you can be at that moment is what will, take you there. And it's the accumulation of an entire life ending, or transitioning, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So other things you do, it's so mystical, it's hard to put words to it, but the things we think about or care about disappear at that last moment, and what really really is the key to clarity and freedom and love comes forth. And I do have to mention, before we run out of time, my favorite quote from the Zen monk that was training Jack Cornfield when he was a young man to be a monk. And Jack Cornfield was worrying about this and worrying about that. And the Zen monk said, "Don't worry, soon dead." So
Mm.
that's kind of my motto. Even though I have
Mm-hmm.
my little fits in my daily life, my motto when I'm really worried about something is, you know what? This is ridiculous. And I make my decisions when I'm confused, based on
Mm-hmm.
my deathbed. What would I have thought? What would I think on my deathbed? What would I
Mm-hmm.
have done?
Avoiding those regrets, which are
Yes.
what we know about, are so universal,
Yes.
you know, with books that have been written from palliative care people saying almost everyone says they wish they would have worked less and been with their loved ones more.
Sure. And for me, because I have lived a life where people are like, "What are you doing?" You know, leaping off cliffs and going, as Marvin said, learn to fly on your way down. It's this sense of wanting to face things, wanting to live a full life, not regretting, thinking, "Oh God, I why was I scared? You know, why was I?" It's one thing to be scared. Of course, I'm scared, but it's one thing to be scared and not do something. I prefer to be scared and go, "Well, I'm doing it. I'm
And I'm
scared, and
scared
I'm
and I'm
really
doing.
scared."
So it's really, it sounds like you started this way, but your experience in hospice and all of these
Mm,
other projects have really reinforced the way you think about life.
absolutely.
I'm curious, as you've sat with so many dying people and the dying prisoners, has that changed your view about what happens after death? Have you
Sure.
had a yeah, what does it feel like to be with someone whose life that they stop breathing and their life is then ended? What do you
Well,
experience?
I can give you the most specific one, and I have held dying babies as well, which is a whole nother realm.
Mm.
But what I experienced, these are experiences. When I was 21, my stepdad died, and I was very close to him, and I started feeling things then, even, and maybe even before. I've always been sort of, as a child, more in the spirit, you know, connecting to the spiritual realm. But when my best friend died, and she was 42, and I was holding her hand as she took her last breath, and there was a sense of such euphoria.
Mm.
I felt this sense of lightness and expansion and timelessness, and I just felt buoyed up. I was high. I was just absolute, and she wanted us to dress her, lay her on the bed for 3 days while we meditated by her, and I had a lot of experiences there, and it was a sense of some profound goodness. And of course, I crashed and sobbed my guts out after they took her body away, and it was time to really grieve. But my sense when I'm with people, and I have not been with dying prisoners, I want to be. That was my goal in the beginning, and at some point I will sit with them. But um, my every single time I've been around those last hours is a sense of a profound peace, and it's undeniable, because I'll even argue with myself over the mystical experiences I've had with people who have died and communicate with me, and these and I always try and argue it, and at a certain point you go, this is ridiculous. Why
Mm-hmm.
are you arguing with this? Just accept
Here it
it.
is.
It's a beautiful, wonderful thing, and you're going to drive your poor dead friends crazy.
Mm. Oh wow! It's so wonderful to speak to you about this because these are conversations that people don't usually have.
I know, and I love having them. Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to share with our listeners before we end? Just anything about your experiences or your hopes for your work? Anything at all?
Well, I guess just a hope that I get so emotional. I guess just a hope that people can learn to love themselves. You know, it always hurts me to hear people that I love say that they don't love themselves, and I think that's a key problem. And if people love themselves and forgive themselves and each other, all these things we wish for would fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
So, be brave. Be brave and love yourself and live your life. Damn it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
boy, that gets to the heart of it. Thank you so much for your honesty and all the work that you're doing.
Oh,
I know
thank you.
that
It's
it
an
brings
honor.
you great
It
joy,
does.
but it also is bringing great joy to the people you serve. And I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for allowing me to express myself on your program.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share with some of your friends. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at nicolechristina.com. And please consider becoming a patron of the show. You will get access to exclusive bonuses, and you will be part of the Zestful Aging community. Keep us going strong. Go to patreon.com/zestfulaging. See you next time for another episode of Zestful Aging.